at the very outset, I have to confess that I have no academic interest in philosophy, and I don't know anything academically. Neither have I known much of Jung till he died, and there was a report about him in one of the Indian journals, and I felt that there was a great soul who has gone away. Now you are all great scholars and great intellectuals, while I am a simple housewife. And all that is simple is reality. Reality is not complicated. One must know is the most simple thing is reality. And the more simple we become, the easier it is for us to grasp the reality. Now to understand Jung's problem, I had no way out because I was not a student of psychology, but I caught hold of some dictionary to know what he was meaning by saying unconscious and collective unconscious and all these words. Then later on in London, I met a Jungian, an Indian boy, studied in Oxford and all that, and then he became a psychiatrist also. He did his MBBS and then he became a psychiatrist. A very clever, intelligent person. And I found that because he had an Indian background, he could integrate properly, and he related to me all the beautiful things about Jung. Of course, he also brought Dr. Adler to meet me, who got somehow cured of his trouble, I think. And Dr. Adler gave me a book as a present, which was so complicated that I gave up. But he was a very nice man, I should say. And I found it difficult to explain to him. Because first of all, there are certain presumptions in our mind and certain conditioning for which we must really thank Freud also, because he is the one who could see that we have conditionings. That's one point about it. But he also could not go too far with him because he could only see one side of the human being, which he has described here, the left side. Now if you see the left side is there, as I've shown, is the power of your desire. And the power of desire, naturally, he felt comes from sex, because the last chakra, as you see, this red one, is the chakra called Muladhara chakra, is the center of Muladhara, and is the one that looks after the excretion of the body. It deals with the pelvic plexus. Now, whatever I am telling you today, you should listen to it with an open mind. That's one request I have to make as a scientist. And secondly, that it is a hypothesis which I am putting before you, as far as you are concerned. You need not take it for granted at all, but keep your mind open. And secondly, that when you find that it is being proved now, whatever Jung has said can be proved, then you have to accept him as a person who knew quite a lot about self and about the collectivity. Now, you can see here very clearly that the one force that acts in us is the power of desire, left side. The right side one is the one that acts, the power of action. Now, in the center, can you see?
Which side is the left?
Left is this side, is the blue. All right?
The left facing us.
Yes, left facing.
So the right side
yes,
of
yes.
the body.
Left of the gentleman, the sitting there.
This is
All right. Yes, left side. Is the blue side.
this
all
is
right?
the this is the left side.
This is the left side. Now the right side, you see, is the yellow colored one, is the one that is the power of action. So now you may ask, what is Kundalini then? Kundalini is the pure desire. Now what is lacked in Freud's writing? Anything about purity. What is pure desire? You see, desire, like we want to have a house, is not pure because it doesn't give you full satisfaction. For example, if you, even economics has described that wants in general are not satiable. In particular, we think that, all right, I'll have a house, then you have a house, then you want to have a car, then you want to have a helicopter. God knows how it moves. So, any desire we have at human awareness is not pure desire. But this Kundalini is the pure desire. So the sense of purity, if it is missing, we cannot talk. Now this desire is put there, as you see, at the triangular bone. And this is there at 3.5 coils. Coils, so in Sanskrit is Kundala, that's why it is called Kundala. Now this pure desire is kept in the bone called sacrum. Now it's very significant. Sacrum in Greek language means sacred. That means Greek people also knew about this, that there is something sacred. So that part of sacredness and auspiciousness is also missing. Now you clearly see here, there are 3 compartments I have seen. One on the left, one on the right, and one in the center. So it is not placed one on top of another. This is another mistake. It is vertical. This is one big mistake, that these are vertical. So for your ascent you have got a clear-cut passage. This one point. Second point is that when you say unconscious, means whatever is not conscious, whatever is not felt on your central nervous system is unconscious. All right. But it's a very mixture box. I mean, everything mixed up together. But what is the purity about it? If you say that the left side, according to Sahaja, the left side represents the desire. I would say Freud, though he was not so clear-cut, his libido. And beyond that is the subconscious and the collective subconscious. So the subconscious is not unconscious. Subconscious is unconscious because of the language problem. It's a language problem. Unconscious is such a big word because it is not conscious on our central nervous system. But that's not what we are bothered about. Subconscious is on one side, we can leave it on one side. All right. Now on the other side, if you see, what we call as the power of action is the futuristic thing. So this side lies the future. We have first the supraconscious area and then the collective supraconscious. See, the difference is that if you say these things are one top of another, we make a very big mistake. That means that if we have to rise to our unconscious, of course rising is also not there. For them is to go down. The rising is not described, but what I have seen a picture of it is that the unconscious is below, the unconscious which will never become conscious, then the unconscious, and then the subconscious, and then the ego. Is rather confused. Now you see that here, that one is the subconscious and the collective subconscious, and one is the supraconscious and the collective supraconscious. Now the top thing, there where you see these petals and all these things, is a lotus, is the superconsciousness. That is the evolutionary ascent we have to achieve, is to become conscious of the superconsciousness, which is really the collective consciousness. Now this has 2 aspects. To say that Patanjali did not say about Kundalini, because at the time of Patanjali it was kept a secret. But he did write about after the ascent what happens very clearly. So the representation of the motherhood is here. This Kundalini is the mother, which you could see. And the father. Father is the one who rests on top of your head. So that is superconsciousness. You have to become one with the whole. So that means you are aware of yourself as I becomes the whole. This has to happen. What is called as the second birth. Now you might say that why Moses didn't talk about it, or Abraham didn't talk about it. Because their job was, you see, they are all connected with each other. Only we are fighting. They are not. They are all together. But the trouble is when people do not have eyes to see, one might say the elephant is just a tail, or somebody might say that it's just a leg. But they are all one together. But this integration only takes place after you have got realization to understand that they say the same thing, they have done the same thing. In a living process of a seed, you can see first the seed becomes the trunk. It has to become the trunk. That doesn't mean trunk is less important than the flower. So this is the trunk, we can call it here. All these great prophets like Moses and Abraham and all those people that God establish the sustenance within us. It started from also in India. We had people, Janaka, Nanaka, and the end was the Shirdi Sai. There were 10 main incarnations of these people who came in this part, and they reside within us to give us the religion. Now the religion we talk of is outside religion, is myth, is mythic. But inside religion is like a valency. As we have a valency for carbon, 4 valencies, in the same way human beings have 10 valencies. And that's how we have got 10 commandments. And these 10 commandments relate to our 10 valencies within us, and that's why they do. That you maintain the balance. Because if you go too much to this side, then you go to the left side, then you fall a prey to subconscious, to collective subconscious. If you go too much to this side, you fall into the supraconscious and to the collective supraconscious. That's why the balance has to be maintained. Any vehicle which has to ascend, like say an aeroplane, if it is not in balance, it cannot ascend. To ascend, one has to maintain the balance, and that's why the religion, which is nothing but consciousness regulated by superconsciousness. Because these people came, according to us, they were incarnations of the primordial master. They didn't say so, because to say this is very dangerous. Anybody says, I am the incarnation of the primordial master, immediately either they'll poison you or they'll hang you by the nearest tree. See, that's what has been. I mean, nobody wants to listen to anyone who says something sensible or truthful. We have been doing that throughout, and of course you cannot crucify me this time, but there are lots of problems I face because I tell the truth. And the truth is that all of them who were born at this stage within us are looking after our religion, means our valencies, means our sustenance by which we are human beings. If we go beyond this, that side or this side, then we become either subnormal or abnormal. Now the subnormal people are the ones who go to the left side. Now, I would like to say that another mistake was committed because of the idea of this unconscious. That way, the findings of the Indian seers, because in India there is nothing like religion, it's just a seeking, a true seeking of a person. He is neither a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, those who are seers. You see, they say there is no caste for a seer. A person who is a seer has no caste, he has no religion, he is nothing, because he is a human being. He doesn't belong to any conditioning of the kind, but to the truth itself. So they found out through meditative method, not through reading, through mental projections, or through imaginations or anything, but through meditative method. First they have to become realized souls. Like in Patanjali, as she said it, it's not written clearly, but he said first you have to have Ishvara Pranidha, means you must get your realization first. The God must be established within you. Before that, anything else you do is just artificial. For example, now, this thing they have put it here for me to speak. Supposing it was not connected to the mains, it would not work. It's a very simple thing again, I say. Any machinery, this one, if it is not put to the mains, it doesn't work. In the same way, human beings who are not connected to the mains, if they start working out, they either go to the left or to the right. Now also we'll see very clearly, medically we can see this, what happens. That we have an autonomous nervous system within us. If you ask the doctors who is this auto, they don't know. They just say auto because it works by itself. Who is the auto, they cannot say. But in the autonomous service, you see, branding is the way people just shut you out. You don't know what to say that you are autonomous nervous system. Now you ask them who is auto. Because I did medicine, I was surprised the way they were going about with all this blindness. Doesn't matter. This autonomous nervous system has got two groups of nervous system. One is sympathetic, another is parasympathetic. Now the sympathetic nervous system, though they call it autonomous, but it is under our control. Because in sympathetic nervous system, in any emergency, it comes into play. Like supposing I'm frightened, then I start running. Then when I start running, the sympathetic goes into action. And when sympathetic goes into action, the parasympathetic brings it back to the normal. Means, supposing you are running very fast, your heart starts pulsating very fast, but then it comes to normal by the action of the parasympathetic. So we have two types of left and right sympathetic nervous system. Both can be activated by our own emergency created by us.
The war. Oh, I just watched.
Great program, huh?
Jai Shri Mataji.
Shri Mataji.
Thank you, Anna and Mancini, for joining us this evening from Italy to share your golden memories with Shri Mataji, Shri Nirmala Devi herself. Would you please give us a brief introduction? And I believe this is the first chance you had to see, to listen, to witness Shri Mataji. Could you tell us about how you were seeking and when you got your realization? Also, what was your first meeting with Shri Mataji like? How was it all? Please, can you share it with us?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to share with everyone my experiences in Sahaja Yoga. I got my realization in 1983. September 16th at the Carl Jung Center, which is the program that you actually played right now. And it was in Manhattan, New York City, Manhattan. And it was the first time I saw Shri Mataji on the stage. It was just compelling for me because she was dressed all in white, like you saw in the film. And it was right away, I could feel that being powerful woman. And we went through the process of self-realization. I felt a little bit, but not much with the self-realization. I had been looking forward to that program because I knew there was going to be something very important for me. Because before I decided to go to the program, maybe 2, 3, 4 months before that, I had been in a very nervous, unstable situation and feeling. I was getting very sick. I was smoking. I was working a lot. There were a lot of attention financially. And I also had a son. And so there was quite a lot of tension. And I could feel myself getting sick, and I didn't like that feeling. Whenever something like would always want to do something about it. And so I kept praying. The feeling was the smoking was getting worse, the mental tension was getting worse. Physically, I started feeling pretty bad. And so I just prayed. I prayed, please, God, um, help me, show me what to do. And I went to the doctors, and they basically found and that I just needed to calm down because physically there was nothing wrong with me, but I could feel physically that I was not well. And so basically, at that time, my husband was doing hatha yoga, and I started doing. He referred me to the teacher, and I went. And the thing is, he was good. I liked the teacher, but I was not getting any better. I would feel okay physically, but also at the end of the program, the asanas and the exercises, I could feel my right side, my lower side, a lot of pain. And I said, okay, well, this is not going to work. I went for about a month and a half, and like I said, initially I would feel okay, but then the pain that I felt, especially in my right lower back, kept coming back. And so I went to last the teacher. Uh, we went through the exercises, and then we started talking about where he was going to go. He was going to go to India, and he said that he was going to go to India and to meet this so-called guru. And no, it was not Shri Mataji though. Um, he was going to India and he was going to see this very famous guru who made rice come out of his hands, and that he would feed the poor people with. Told me, I don't know why, but it was just a feeling that I had. And then we finished the session, and I was outside waiting for the bus to go home. And all of a sudden, I feel this uh, something in my mind, my attention just went to this vision that I had. I couldn't control it. It was just a vision that came into my head. And I saw this lady in white standing in profile, uh, and she had this long black hair. It looked like a braid, but her hair was long and black. And behind her were these like hills. And then the vision stopped. And then I was a little bit dizzy after that. And I was wondering, what was that? What I couldn't figure it out because it was something so unique that's never happened to me before. So that evening, I went home and had gone to work. I was sitting down on the couch, and my son was playing on the floor with his toys. And all of a sudden, I was sitting and I started feeling this energy that came above my head. And it was like a wind. It was like a cool wind. Like when you feel the breeze of the cool wind, that's what it felt like. And it penetrated into my head. And I opened my hands like this and I accepted it. I knew it was something good. I just had the feeling that there was something good that was happening to me. And I closed my eyes and I could feel all this energy come in and all of the tension, all of the worries, the financial problems, all that kind of, you know, dissipated. And I just felt very, very good, and I knew this was something good. And then I looked at my son and he was doing the same thing. He had his hands open and he had his eyes closed.
Wow. So how,
Incredible,
if we may
good.
ask, how old were you at this time, and what was your field of work?
Well, I was 35. I'm 78, and now I'm 78 now. But at that time, I was 35, and I was working as a telephone operator, um, and at the same time looking for some acting work, because I wanted to do something artistic. And so once in a while, I would maybe um, go to auditions and try to find acting work. But it was, everything was kind of in balance because I didn't have the time to go for these auditions. I had a son. I didn't have much money at the time. We were okay, but still we needed money. And I was basically working as a telephone operator. So I said that experience that I had, it made me feel very good. And a couple of
Beautiful.
weeks
And
after
your
that,
son felt the same as well, which is beautiful.
can you repeat that, please?
The experience you had of that serene calmness of the breeze and the energy was also felt by your young son, and that's so amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
After that vision of
yeah,
who
yeah.
you would then
He,
later know, Shri Mataji, at the bus stop.
yeah. And so for a couple of weeks, I sometimes I would get the tension and the uneasiness back and, the worries, the mental worries. But then at a certain point, I remember feeling some kind of energy in my hands. And it was like pulsating because I started praying. Just before that, I started praying and I said, "Oh God, don't give me back that feeling of, illness and not feeling well and tension and mental disturbances." And at the moment, I started feeling this pulsation in my hands, and it was like throbbing, and it was cool. And I knew that God was answering my prayers, like saying, "Okay, you're going to be fine," because it felt something very, very uh, good for me. And so basically, then this happened 2, 3 times. And then about 3, 4 months later, I was in the village, Greenwich Village, downtown Manhattan. And I walked into a deli. And as I walked on the left side of the wall of the entrance, I saw a photo of this beautiful woman. And I said, "Oh my God, it's like the most beautiful face I've ever seen." I still have that photo, by the way. It's in the back of one of the Sahaja yoga books. I found it, and there was information about the programs and so forth. So I called, and the woman that answered said, "Yes, mother is coming to New York, and why don't you come to the program?" And I'm thinking, why is she saying mother? Why? I mean, I have a mother, and all things, questions that came into my head. Anyway, I did go to the program about, I think well, this was happened to me in August. September 16th is when I went to the program, and this is when I saw Shri Mataji for the very, very first time. But I didn't connect her with the experiences that had happened to me. I don't know why, but the first time I saw Shri Mataji, like I said before, she was compelling, uh, majestic on the stage. To me, she was so beautiful. And then we went through the process of self-realization. In physically, and then I went back to the programs, to follow-ups. I started the foot soaking, and within 3 weeks of the meditation and the foot soaking, I started to feel physically strong again. And then what happened when I would foot soak, I would feel the pain in my lower back that I would feel when I went to Hatha Yoga. And then after that, I learned that, of course, it was the second chakra, the Swadhisthana, that was all imbalanced, that needed to have all the heat from the liver removed. And so it took me a good 3 to 4 weeks to really feel the entire coolness that I felt here. But I still didn't connect it with what had happened before I met Shri Mataji, you know. And so Shri Mataji was having a um, seminar up in northern New York. It was a place called Deer Park. And I was invited. And of course, I went. And I stayed at Judy Gaddy's house. She was one of the yoginis who was offered her place for Shri Mataji and all her meetings. And we were waiting for our rides to take us up to Deer Park. And I want to share this with you because it's fascinating to me. One of the most important moments of my life. And we were waiting for our rides, and then I hear Judy Gaddy talking. And then I caught the words, Shri Mataji was the mother of Jesus Christ. And bong, so what? It hit me because I grew up as a Catholic, you know, and of course, the Madonna is very important to us. I've always loved the Madonna. My mother would have beautiful photos of the Madonna in the house. And when I heard Judy say that, I was half asleep, but I heard, she's the mother of Jesus Christ. I perked up. I couldn't say anything because it was astounding what I heard. I said, my goodness, how can they be? I'm feeling vibrations now. And you know what? I couldn't talk. And what I did, I went out. I went to a coffee shop and I had coffee and I'm drinking this coffee and thinking about what Judy had said about Shrimataji being the Madonna. It was like something took me back to a primordial state in me. That's very, very important and very, very dynamic was happening to me. Because how could I even have that feeling of a primordial state? So, I couldn't make out exactly what was happening, but I knew it was something very important and I was going to stay with it. And so I went back to Judy's house, and then that night we went to Deer Park. There were bhajans. It's just on the internet. It's on Amruta, all of this, the programs that she gave. And she allowed us to ask questions for her. And I remember asking about my son who had problems with his ears. And but then something within me was creating some kind of tension because I knew something was going on, something was happening, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. I said with the Madonna at that moment because it was still, something so new to me. And then I couldn't connect it to what had happened before with the vision that I had of Shri Mataji, 2, 3 months ago. And I think it was the second evening of the seminar that I was still very conflicted. I felt as if people were not telling me something. I don't know what it was. So I just, Shri Mataji had left after the second seminar, trying to figure out what is it that I don't know. And I was near Shri Mataji's house, where she was staying at that moment at the Deer Park. And I'm walking back and forth, and I'm just, trying to figure out what is going on. There's something I don't know here. And I see one of the yogis come by and he says, Anna, what's going on? Are you okay? I said, Michael, what is it that's going on here? There's something that I don't quite understand. He said, Anna, you're the 12 disciples are here. We're going into the last judgment. Shri Mataji is here. She's the Holy Spirit, and she is here to save the world. I'm like, what? And it's all coming in. It's all like seeping in little by little. Because it was then I kind of, you know, started to get it together. And then and then I said to Michael, well, if Shri Mataji is here and this is the last judgment, does that mean that, we have to do something? What is it that we're supposed to be doing? And he said, this is Sahaja Yoga, and that Shri Mataji is here to save humanity. And so, I started, and at that moment, I started thinking of the vision that I had the first time that Shimataji actually protected me from the false guru the Hatha Yoga
Yes.
teacher, because I realized at the moment when she blessed me with that vision, she was protecting me, even though we had never met. She was protecting me from, and I had closed my eyes at that moment. Michael had left. I closed my eyes at that moment, and that vision came back. And Shrimataji made me realize that it was her, that she's here now, and that she made me see that vision. Well, of course, everything changed after that. The foot soaking, the meditation, the getting together with the yogis, the weekly meetings I would go to. Okay. Okay. My transformation. I was for 2, 3 years. I very, very, very disciplined way. I attended all the programs. In the year later, Shrimataji came to New York to give Krishna puja, and to me, it was it was all normal. I mean, it was like something that, and so then we 1984. Also that the following year, was it 85? No, maybe it was 84. I also went to Guru Puja in Switzerland, and that was amazing also. That helped me to become very, very much established. And physically, every time I had a problem, I would feel what chakra was catching and so forth. And so I grew, vibrationally. And it wasn't until 1987 that I felt like I was ready to do a program, to give public programs. So that's 1987. I started giving programs at the local high school where I lived. And those were phenomenal for me because the more programs I give, I gave Shimataji would come to America. I would go to the pujas, and of course, we always waited for her to, to come and bless us with her vibrations. I was learning so much about America, the problems of America, the problems of the world. And this gave me a lot of desire, to share Sahaja Yoga and to share Shri Mataji's teachings with others who were not so lucky or so blessed as I have. And that's when I started giving public programs at the high school. And then it was 1990 that I had read that they had given Sahaja Yoga programs in the prisons, Yanasik. And boom, I said, wow, that must be so dynamic, to go to the prison. So I basically, you know, uh, holding prison in the States, it's the biggest one in America, and we started, and it worked out tremendously because the lady that I was dealing with, the one who gave me permission to start the programs, we had invited her to a program that Shimataji had given for social workers in New York. Um, the, and I had invited her name was Maria Gerena. I invited her to come, and she actually got her realization through Shri Mataji, and that's primes. We were there for 2 years, and I mean each program was phenomenal. You know, we also gave programs to the um, male prisoners who were ill. We give programs to the women, and we gave also programs. The ones with the teenagers were not so. We only did 2 or 3 because the personnel that was working with the teens, they weren't that committed. So we really didn't. They didn't. They didn't organize the meetings for us. So, but with the men and the women, the personnel, they were very good in organizing the times when we would go there. And let me tell you one beautiful program that I want to share with you, and that is with the women. It was phenomenal because the first program we had, they were about 78 to 80 women. So when you're in prison, you're there with lots of problems, emotional problems, physical problems, drugs, alcohol, and of course the vibrations were very heavy. But at the end, when we got to the self-realization part, it would cool down, and you could feel the vibrations. And the women would all, before leaving, they all came towards. I mean, they wanted to talk with us. They wanted to meet with us. They wanted to share their stories. They were so open to us. And there was one woman, her name was Sophia, and she was pregnant. She was like maybe 8 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant. And so she came to the following programs that we had, the follow-ups. And then there was one program where she did not come. And she came 2 weeks later. And she started off by saying to everybody, guys, this works. Sahaja Yoga works. My baby was born in the prison. And when he was born, he didn't have any alcohol and he didn't have any drugs. And when he was born, everybody could feel coolness coming out of this newborn. And everybody was amazed. And as she was telling us, we were just astounded. And, we knew what it was, that the baby was probably a born realized soul in prison. And so
Yeah.
that I just wanted to share that with you.
How many
And
programs did you do? That's so very special, this experience.
can you repeat that? How many programs we did?
So you had the first session where the self-realization, they got their self-realization. How many follow-ups did you have? Was it like a 3 week, 7 week? What was it like?
Well, like I said, it's one director, Maria Girena. She allowed us even to futsuk. She allowed us anything that we wanted. Of course, before entering the prison, we were checked for whatever we had. We weren't allowed to bring any anything to eat. Although eventually we were allowed even that. We would bring sandwiches and uh, the foot soaking apparatus for the guys to and the ladies to foot soak. And so basically, when we started, it took us. We were there almost 2 years. 2 years because Maria Girena, she would for every 2 3 months we would go to a different area. The first were male prisoners who had a lot of physical problems. We stayed with them for about maybe two, 3 months, but not consecutively. So it lasted about 2 3 months. Then after that, we went to the women, and the women that lasted for quite a while. Um, and again, each program was just amazing. Um, I remember in the beginning, the guys who would come in, and the women, they would be talking. Some of them would be smoking. There would be a lot of chaos around. But as soon as we started meditating, they would just listen to us very, very quietly, very respectfully, and they would sit down. We would meditate, and afterwards, the after doing the introduction of the chakras and so forth, explaining about Shri Mataji and how Sahaja can help with the physical and mental problems. And then we would meditate, and the vibrations would be so powerful, so powerful. And unfortunately, and I was never alone. We always had there were two or three of us ladies that would come, but we always had yogis with us. When we went with the men, we were never alone. We always had yogis that would come with us, just because they would be male prisoners, and we didn't want to be there alone, so we had male yogis that would come with us. And I'll tell you, the yogis that would come with us, that we went, um, almost every week. Uh, we had such an incredible time because we could see the benefit of these poor guys and women, disadvantaged people, and you could see the change in them. They were so grateful. And I'll tell you, one time, Mr. Subramyan came, Bhaskar Subramyan came, and because he had heard about our programs, and he came and he did a musical program these were guys that had been they were found guilty and they were serving time. They were serving time, and you know Bhaskar Subramyan, he is an incredible musician, and when he sang 3 or 4 beautiful bhajans, and at one bhajan, I think the last one, his vibrations like cleared the entire space that we were in, cell that we were in. And afterwards, these big guys, these prisoners, they just went up to him and they hugged him because they were so full of the vibrations. And for us, it was just amazing, to see Sri Mataji's love, to
So did
be,
he sing Bhavani Dayani there? It's one of his signature ones, isn't it?
no, he didn't, I forget which ones he sang. No, it wasn't that one, but because that's my favorite bhajan, but it for us, every program was unique, and so we were able to do this for 2 years. Um, and I forgot why we stopped. I think we had hit every area of the prison itself. Of course, Mother was always protecting us, though, you see, because the vibrations were always heavy. But after the meditations, after, speaking with these guys, and after they having meditated, the vibrations would change. But Mother was always protecting us, always. One time a miracle happened where um, I want to share this because I think it's important to know how Mother works, how Shri Mataji knows everything. And we were trying to get into the prison, and they kept telling us, no, you can't go in now because everything is locked. We have to wait. So we waited like half hour, nothing. We waited another half hour, nothing. We still couldn't go in. And then I finally said to Stella, one of the yoginis, who would bring sandwiches, for the prisoners. I said, Stella, let's feel vibrations to see why we can't go in, because we were always allowed to go in. And I started feeling, and I felt Muladhara. The Muladhara was so strong. Something serious must have happened, or something negative must have happened. And so we were being protected. I said, let's go home because we're not going to get in. And I knew that Mother was protecting us, because the prisons, they're not they're not the ideal place. So and that was for 2 years. It was amazing. And so
Yes.
that gave me the desire, not just me, but other yogis, the desire to go and do some more social work, Sahaja yoga. And so we found a drug rehab place downtown in the Lower East Side. The Lower East Side is a very famous part of Manhattan where all the immigrants would settle in the early 1900s. And it's still like that. It's still very uh, eclectic. It's considered still very, very, it's a very, what kind of, it's very old, you know, but also the buildings are old. The environment is still has still that that and influence from the early 1900s, and so a lot of things that happen there are for lower income people. And so I said, okay, let me try the drug rehab. And so I connected with a lady who also met Sri Mataji, by the way. We invited her to come to Sri Mataji's program. And that's how we also got into Sukasa. And there again, dealing with people that were there to overcome the drug problems. And and so that went on for 3 years. So for us, it was basically miracle after miracle because we could just see Mother working on these communities, you know. And I guess I was always a kind of interested in social work myself. I never became a professional social worker, but I'm always interested in what's happening in society. And also because my parents were immigrants, we really were poor, when we came to America, no work, and but eventually things got better and better. And I guess this is what made me focus more on the lower income, less fortunate people. And I believe this is what Mother wanted me to do because, I realized that Sri Mataji not only looks for us, who have been with her in the past lives, the ones who become yogis, who get our sahasrara opened through her and through Shri Ganesha, but her holy attention goes everywhere. Of course, a lot of the people that came to the prison programs and Sukasa drug rehab. And then we also worked with in other areas. But of course, they didn't become Sahaja yogis. But mother's attention and her love went to these areas, and this is to me, was just amazing, because you think, well, you know, we're blessed, we've become Sahaja yogis, we learn about the chakras and we start living a transformed life. But it just doesn't stop there for a mother. She is everywhere. And, what can I say? Every time we did something, it was she guiding us. We could feel, her attention on us. But the most important thing also that happened that we learned, not just myself, but for the yogis, that while giving these programs, we were getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Our vibrations, our chakras, our channels. We just got so many blessings from it. And I never hesitated to reach out in in different areas of society. It was a blessing for me. And I'm sure if the yogis that I dealt with were here, they would say the same thing.
Yes,
So,
it's a phenomenal experience of sharing mother's love by,
yeah,
sharing that unique gift to humankind that only Shri Mataji, in her love as the mother, as the Adi Shakti, could
yeah,
enable almost self-realization, because otherwise it's such a huge secret, and in the past people used to take a very, very long time. It's hard to quantify to get to the stage where Shri Mataji just starts us off with, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And but again, it was it wasn't work. It wasn't work. It was just for me, it was just a joy to do this because Shimataji had given me a gift and I wanted to give something in return for
So how was it like
her,
managing? Um,
reciprocate what
Sure,
she gave
but
me.
how did it work out? Because you had a young child, you were balancing work, you were giving self-realization, you were also working in your own for your own ascent, which was happening automatically, perhaps, but some endeavor on your part. Tell us how it
Yeah,
translated, and tell us, please, about the nature of mother, because yeah, what was it like for you? Go on.
the nature of mother. Hmm. Well, I'll tell you, I have to be honest with you. I think that the reason why Shrimataji blessed me with the experience of being able to recognize her is because I had a very, very difficult, sad childhood, very difficult. And one of the yoginis brought it out to me, which I thought was right. Um, I have like very little um, vague images. I don't remember my mother or father until the age of 8 when we came to America. Uh, I had no clear memory. And I think this is why Shrimataji blessed me with the fact of recognize her right away because I think had I not if I think she had not allowed me to experience her nature with the cool breeze coming into my sasrara, uh, with the fact that she gave me that vision with these powerful vibrational experiences, I would not have stayed in Sahaja Yoga. You see, because I was so disturbed, both emotionally and physically at that time, when I was 35, that I think for her to bless me in such a powerful way is because she wanted me to be in Sahaja Yoga. And had she not given me these powerful experiences, I would not have stayed because I was caught up. I mean, my back agnya, I didn't know it at that time, but my back agnya was completely closed. I mean, I can talk about that later, how she little by little opened that up. That's in another segment of Sahaja, which is very powerful. But I think that was Mother's blessing for me, to go through these powerful experiences to to make me understand who she was. Because had I not known her, I would not have, I don't think I would have been like everybody else. You come to the program, you get your realization, it felt fine, you felt a little bit of coolness, then you go back to your life. I don't think Mother wanted that for me. And also, I would not have wanted it either. Like she says, the Sahaja yogis have, we have punyas, we have rewards from our past lives. So maybe I say this humbly, maybe it was my punya. I don't know. But all I can say is thank you, Shri Mataji, because, without all of these incredible experiences, I probably would have been dead by now. I really would have. I think I was 35 and I started really, really going down. That's why I didn't want to have that feeling of not knowing what life was about. Yeah, I think this many yogis go through this.
Yes,
Even as young
yes,
children, we go through these periods where, we say, what is this all about?
yeah.
You know, why am I here? And, what is life about and who is God? And you know what happened when Shrimati gave her first um, seminar in 1983 in October. After I got my realization, I went to the seminar. We were told that we could write questions on a piece of paper and they would give it to Shri Mataji. So I said, oh, good. I'm going to. And I had three questions. I had, who is God? What is my purpose in life? And why am I here? And, I gave that paper to Judy Gaddy. Um, she was the yogini who had her house, who offered her apartment as a Sahaja Yoga center. And she and her husband were very, very dedicated. And so I gave her these three questions, and evidently they must have given it to Shri Mataji because about a month later I had a dream, and Shri Mataji came into the dream, and she was she was in my dining room, and she was dressed all in white. Every time I dream of Shri Mataji, she's always dressed in white, and she always looks majestic. To me, her body is the body of a woman, but it's this powerful build like a Superman, and yet she's just a woman. But this is the feeling that I get. And in my dream, she was again that nature. And she was holding this little piece of paper in her hand. And she says to me, I am aware. I am aware. That's all I heard. And I said, oh, wow. And I felt so much peace. I felt like my whole body was in heaven. I felt like it felt just peace and I felt good. And I went back to sleep so happy. And I forgot about that dream. And again, to share with you the nature of Mother, that she is the Adi Shakti, that she knows everything. A month after that, I was at school waiting for my son to come out of school. I was waiting for him on the bench. And I all of a sudden, I just went up and it stopped here. It stopped at the Agnya. And I went into this very, very deep state. And I didn't know what was happening to me, but I knew again it was Mother working on me. I knew my Kundalini had come up, but it stayed here. And here, you know what happens, Sushmita? When things happen to you vibrationally that you cannot understand, the Kundalini allows you to understand what's happening. Somehow it penetrates into your consciousness and you understand what's happening. So the Kundalini was here, and the Kundalini was telling me that you grow in life through reincarnation. You go through lifetimes to grow and transform, you know? And so I was perceiving that. And also, I had a couple of images of past dreams that I had. And I knew that was part of my past life. And then the Kundalini went to the Sahasrara, and the Sahasrara went boom. The petals opened up. I could feel the petals opening up and penetrating in the Sahasrara was my Kundalini. And Shri Mataji allowed me to see what a fully opened Sahasrara is. And it's hard to explain. She made me understand the nature of God. And the nature of God is that it's all love, it's all knowledge. He is everything in life. A state of that's hard to explain unless you go through it. And this Mataji was telling me that this huge white kind of a planet that was emanating this tremendous energy of love and knowledge, and that's God. And then around this planet were these little planets, and the Shrimataji made me realize that we were part of God. The Sahaja yogis are part of God. And that's why she says all the time, you know, we have to understand and we have to work on our chakras, and we have to understand the deities, and we have to constantly purify ourselves, because we have the potential to become that state of love and state of complete knowledge and eternity, and then again, this is something that is hard to explain, but the Kundalini made me understand what was happening to me. And once Mother displayed to me the nature of God and her nature, then the sasrara closed. It went to the petals came like boom, just like it closed. Then Kundalini went, it didn't go down because it stayed up there, but then I heard my son calling me, Mommy, Mommy. He's pushing on my leg. Mommy, Mommy, what's the matter? What's the matter? Are you okay? Because I was like, I was in this state of the Kundalini is so powerful. And then I opened my eyes and I saw him. I said, I'm fine, to reassure him. And I took his hand and we had to walk home, but he walked faster than me. He kept saying, "Mommy, hurry up, hurry up." But I was like in this state of uh, powerful energy up here. And I was like, sometimes I would get dizzy. And I mean, I still remember my son about maybe 5 feet ahead of me and say, "Mommy, come on, come on." And I'm feeling this energy up here. And Sushmita, it's like um, Mother has blessed me with so much. And uh, so with me in the beginning, I mean, I was able to, you have to consolidate your regular life with Sahaja Yoga and your child, your husband. You had to basically make the decision of what it is that how, how much time do I dedicate to Sahaja Yoga, to my family, and for me, um, I never worked full time because I didn't want to. I had a degree. I had a degree that I was able to achieve, but I never worked full time because I wanted to do Sahaja Yoga. And when we did the prison programs and the Sukasa programs, I would not have been able to do it if I would have worked full time. The public program's okay because in the evenings, you have one day a week in the evening and you could dedicate your time to that and you could still work full time. But the prisons, we would go once a week during the daytime on a weekday. And the same thing with many of my other programs. And so I never wanted to work full time. I didn't make the money that I was supposed to, but somehow Mother always provided the money. You know, um, I mean, it's a miracle about when we dedicate our time. Like she says, if you want to be employed by God, He will give you the employment. And one time I was at home with my husband and my son, and they were collecting money for shooting camps. Were you in Sahaja Yoga at that time for shooting camps? No?
I was far away in India at that time.
Oh,
And it wasn't the age of internet and social media, wasn't it?
well, it was 1986 or 87, I think. 87, 88, when we all got news from European yogis that they were trying to
Yes.
raise money for shooting camps.
Right.
And, again, I mean, I was never poor, but we were never that rich either. But I did have money that, I most of it for that particular moment that they were asking for the money, I give it all to Shri Mataji. I sent it through the bank. And that evening, I decided to do it. And my husband who actually was at work at that time. He was a cab driver, and he worked during the night. And listen to this. He said, "Anna, I don't. People wanted to ride in my cab." He said, "I made so much money." He said, "I have never made this much money in one evening." Because that I had decided to give money to shooting camps. And that evening, Mother allowed him to make all this money that we were going to give to shooting camps. It's it's a miracle. How did it happen?
Yes,
You
blessings,
know?
Shri Mataji's
So
blessings, of course.
and so it was always, the decision to me, the first was always Sahaja Yoga. And I was able to basically uh, connect the things together and it all, it's a journey, to me, Sahaja Yoga is a journey. It's a path that you want to be on. It's a path that you want to follow, that you don't want to miss. You always want to be in that state of, joy, the state of having mother have her attention on you, because it's the ultimate. What else is there besides that, except maybe more knowledge and more experiences of the divine, you know? But yeah, it was for me, it was an incredible growth because, like I said, when I started Sahaja Yoga, my back agnya was closed. I had no memory of my childhood until up to the age of 8. Then it started becoming clearer and clearer. I had all of these emotional problems, sad past that was not very nice. Is a lot of people have sad past,
Yes.
So, but it's all, you know, it's been, I've been in Sahaja Yoga more than 40 years. And each day, each year is more and more powerful. And what else can I say? Is there anything better in life?
Ah,
There's nothing.
that's a beautiful rhetorical question, that. Such blessings from Shri Mataji to live a life of purity and divine love and to share it with humanity. That is just amazing. And to have this
Yeah,
blessing of our second birth, for which obviously we've been striving for quite some time, not just in this life. But
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing this so beautifully, your journey of seeking and the beautiful experiences you've had with your connection to Shri Mataji. That is so lovely. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing with us today. That's very, very kind of you. And all thanks to Shri Mataji for enriching every moment of our lives, with such joy, with such love that only Mother can give. Thank you,
yeah,
Anna. Thank you,
yeah. You're
Anna.
welcome. Thank you.
Jai Shri
Thank you, Seema.
Mataji. Thank you, Shri Mataji, for everything.
Thank you,
Jai Shri
Mother.
Mataji.
Thank you.